Tales from the wild. Stories from the heart. A journey into the mind and soul of fired-up business professionals where they share their vision for the future. And hear from a different non-profit organization every month as they create awareness of their goals and their needs. Dive into a world of untamed passion as we join our host, Shireen Buerta, for this month's episode of Friends from Wild Places.
All right. Hi, good day, professionals. Welcome. My name is Shireen. I am your bookkeeper and QuickBooks advisor. So let's talk about partial payments inside QuickBooks Online and how easy it is with the right bookkeeper to handle these situations. When a customer has multiple invoices and makes a partial payment to cover specific amounts towards each invoice. Inside QuickBooks, when you create a payment, it wants to add the full amount to the oldest invoice first. As your bookkeeper, I can work around the automated responses inside QuickBooks and create accurate and clean books for you, no matter the situation that is given to me. Call Shireen's bookkeeping services today and let me worry about those partial payments so you can do life. If you want to know more, go check it out at www.shireensbookkeeping.com and allow me to keep your books clean. Awesome. Welcome back. You are listening to Friends from Wild Places. I'm your host, Shireen Buerta, and I'm very happy to introduce to you Chris Davis. He is SVP of Mortgage Lending from San Anselmo, California, United States. It's so good to have you here. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, my friend. It's lovely to see you today.
No, it's I don't know if you've been keeping up with the whole Sussex's situation with Meghan and
all of the drama. Yeah, I can't avoid it. I don't really find a lot of that stuff is, I don't know. I feel bad for them, to be honest. I feel they just want to have a normal life and it eludes them, right? So, I mean, their problems really aren't real life problems, I would think, right? They have enormous wealth and fame and beauty, and they just want to have a private life. But, come on. I mean, They'll never have to work.
This is what I think. Hurt people. And clearly there are hurt feelings in the situation on both sides, on the royal family side and on the couple's side. And it's very sad. I think it's a very sad situation. I personally wouldn't have made it public like it is, but I guess they are a public family and a public figure. So I think it was inevitable for it to become public. But I think, to be honest, I think the only way to sort this out is get a mediator or some professional and get yourselves to sit down as a family and sort it out and try and reconcile, because clearly there are hurt feelings on both sides. And if that's not possible, then my advice to the couple is move on, live your life.
Well, they have, right? Yeah, I mean, they moved to the States, right? Living in Santa Barbara, aren't they, or somewhere like that?
Right, but then this Netflix documentary was released, and it's now made this big uproar because more hurt feelings have been surfaced, and I'm just like, you know what? Just move on. If it can't be reconciled and there can't be healing amongst you and your fam, just, find healing quietly.
Why do you think they would authorize Netflix to do a documentary about them if they wanted to be in hiding and remove themselves from it? Aren't they scratching a scab?
That's what I'm thinking. Right. Yeah. Right. So that's why I'm thinking that wouldn't have been I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have chosen to do that, especially already with all the damage that's happened already and the arguments and the hurt feelings. I would have been like, no, you know what, Harry, let's just move on quietly in California somewhere and just say no to the Netflix and let's just continue with life. But this Netflix decision, I don't think was the wisest, but that's them. You know what I mean? It's their decision.
Well, I mean, Netflix is getting playtime, but the family. Meghan Markle. Come on, she's an actress.
Right.
Maybe she misses a little bit of that attention.
Who knows? Right.
But, I mean, what inevitably, what is the purpose in a democracy to have a royal family anymore? what is the point? Right? They're not really in any country, frankly, right? Just, they're wealthy and they do a lot of philanthropy, but nobody cares. I guess maybe the British care. I don't know. You're part of the Commonwealth, or you were part of the Commonwealth. I don't know.
I love what they stand for. I've always loved the royal family and what they stood for, and the Queen and what she stood for, and what a matriarch she was. I mean, I loved her to bits.
The romantic elements of it, and the Queen herself, amazing. She was cool, right? I guess, but
anyway,
the Scandinavia still has royal families. Spain still does, right?
Yeah, there's royal families all over the world.
Yeah, it's not me. You and I have to work. We can't be philanthropic.
Exactly.
As much for as a full-time job. Yeah.
Well, that's all I really wanted to say about that. So for the listeners, how I met Chris was through BNI. He has just recently joined our BNI group, High Performance Referrals. So Chris, I just want to hand it over to you and just ask you a question of how has BNI benefited you?
I didn't know what to expect. When I was approached years ago to be a part of the network in San Francisco, my children were small and I couldn't commit a 7 a.m. in-person meeting weekly because I was in charge of my kids when they were babies in the mornings. Mm-hmm. And the technology has evolved so much, and I think maybe amplified in the wake of COVID, where it's much more commonplace and acceptable to do business via Zoom in a setting like BNI. And the things that I've been gravitating to related to BNI have been structure and the accountability to some degree. At this stage of my career, probably a good reminder of being accountable and being in front of your peers, having those conversations every week. And I really like the individuals that are in our group. I really enjoy talking with all of you each week. And as a mortgage originator, I get to look under the hood, needs related to wealth management, insurance, self-employed bookkeeping, and CPA. I mean, I really am exposed to everybody's really important personal, professional, and financial lives. And so I have a lot to share. I think I'm an important piece to this puzzle for all of us, giving, sort of a concierge level service to consumers. I only responded when someone asked me, instead of asking them, hey, do you need help with this? Because common response would be, yes, I do. Do you have a recommendation for that?
Right.
So when my business is robust, I touch 6 or 8 new homeowners a month.
Right.
That need insurance, that need, and a lot of people in the Bay Area are involved in high tech. Mm-hmm. And there's a fair amount of entrepreneurs here too.
Yeah.
And those kinds of businesses and consumers are going to need bookkeeping advice, financial wealth management, just a lot of those kinds of things that, frankly, the BNI exposure has helped me take a double take and say, hey, you can really offer a lot more than just mortgage to these people. Right. Not just my service, but the services of my peers, people that I trust that can represent, their representation of me in the long run. Like, people really appreciate when we refer them good quality professionals.
Right.
And BNI has helped me with that.
Absolutely.
And I've been with this group 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's just been really helpful.
So if you are listening and you are looking for a networking group that you'd like to come and visit and see what it's like, you're more than welcome to come visit High Performance Referrals. We meet on Zoom every Tuesday at 7 a.m. PST. Please go ahead and either click on the link for the actual High Performance Referrals website, or you can email me at Shireen@Shireen'sBookkeeping.com. That's Shireen@Shireen'sBookkeeping.com, and we can register you for a visit. There's no pressure to join. You can just come see what it's like and see if it's your cup of tea. I always say that it is really good for most business owners to be part of a networking group.
I would agree.
Right. So let's begin with the quote of the day. The quote that I've got for us today, Chris, is strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. And this is by Albert Einstein. So what does it mean to be of value? Well, straight from the dictionary, the regard that something is held to deserve, the importance, worth, or usefulness of something. So values are beliefs that motivate people to act in a certain way. On saying that, do you agree with this statement?
I would agree, of course. That seems like a pretty poignant thing to say, right?
Right. And what value do you bring to the people around you and in your businesses?
I think as a personality, I bring a lot of humor.
Yes, you do.
I bring a lot of calm.
Right.
And, it started off as a job that became a career. And I think the difference is recognizing the value you bring to people professionally compared to transactionally. As it turns out, I'm good at and I enjoy helping people with pride of ownership. Buying a house is a foundational thing in the American dream and probably worldwide.
Right.
If you can afford to buy a home and stabilize your family, create wealth, it's a great wealth making tool. You make money living in a house just by living in it and making your mortgage payment.
Right.
Equity grows over time. You pay that mortgage down, and you're sitting on a nice thing that you can bequeath to your kids one day or in eventual retirement, not have to make a mortgage payment anymore. So I'm a huge proponent of it. And, there are small groups of people in this consumer age that we live in that don't understand that. But predominantly, when people come to me and they're like, well, gosh, my rent is so high. That's when you take the leap, you cross over, you make that mortgage payment.
Mm-hmm.
When it's equitable to your rent, that's when you buy. That's when you cross over to home ownership. And I just really like explaining those details to people. The tax benefits, the mortgage interest deductions, things like that are really important. And most people don't understand that until they talk to a professional banker that does it every day. I joke that it comes out of my pores when I sweat. It's the first thing I think of when I wake up, and that's probably a good thing, right?
It is. It's 100% a good thing. Yeah.
Well, I understand every little nuance of my industry.
That's awesome, and that's good. That's really good. Yeah, you want someone that's a professional in his profession, and you can't say that about everybody in their profession. You know what I mean?
A lot of people in my business that get into it don't survive. Many do. Right. But in markets like this, it really makes a difference to see who can navigate and weather environments like this, because the rate market's been very volatile this last year. And the housing industry has been headed for, in my opinion, a very necessary correction.
Right.
And so people that are recognizing in my industry, the market's always good. Mm-hmm. And I say this to my realtor pool, that in markets like this, if the rates aren't attractive, marry the house and date the mortgage, because in a year or two, I'm going to refinance you out of that higher price mortgage. But that market that wasn't so frothy and crazy enables you to buy a house maybe with less down and less competitors. Right. You're able to get into that house. And then we rent the money until the mortgage rates come back down. Right. And when I say rent the money, you're not in your forever loan. Yes. You're in a loan that's going to get you through to the next refi boom, as they say. Yeah. And all the while, you were able to get into a house that in a frothy rate market, when rates are really low and everybody's trying to buy, it's very difficult to compete. And I like markets like this, because I feel like there are opportunities for 5% down payment instead of cash, instead of 50% down, instead of paying $200,000 or $300,000 over list price, which is what you get in the Bay Area in frothy markets. It's crazy. Right. People are paying over list price what you would pay for a house in most of Middle America in whole. And that, the cost of entry in the Bay Area, where I live, probably an average of over $1 million, well over $1 million.
Right.
That's a lot of money globally. That's a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah.
So for the listeners, as you can hear, he's very knowledgeable at what he does, and it's fantastic. And he makes it very understandable, which is how you should speak to people that are not fluent in the mortgage lending world. So I love the way you explain things, Chris. I'm talking about, challenges. What has been your biggest challenge personally, and what have you learned from that being a mortgage lender?
COVID created a rate market that translated to a buyer expectation that was unreasonable. There was a lot of entitlement being brewed here in the universe. It's taken most of this year to remind people that the mortgage rate that we're currently in is more normalized, and that what we saw in 2020 and 21 and at the beginning of this year, the first quarter, that was a rate market. It was fantasy land. It was Disneyland. It was managed by the Federal Reserve deliberately bring rates down to counter the chaos that was happening in the wake of COVID. We haven't had a pandemic in 100 years. So in our lifetimes, we've never seen anything like this. And probably in our lifetimes, we won't see anything like this again, hopefully. And so the challenge has been reminding people that what we saw in 20 and 21 wasn't a normal market. It wasn't a realistic rate expectation. Historically, since World War II, rates are on 30-year fixed benchmark products, between 4% and 6%. It's a good market. And people always laugh. They always try to date themselves and remind you how when they've been in the industry. In the 80s, there was a savings and loan crisis here in the States where rates approached 14, 16, I think even 18%. But I don't think we'll see that again. I think that they can keep rates low enough not to have that kind of restrictive policy to quell inflation. And that's what they've been doing with rates. It's just trying to keep inflation from overheating. And there's been a lot of talk about the Fed Reserve having managed that this year. I think they've stepped on the brakes and calm things down.
Yeah,
and that's what that was their intention.
It's amazing where we've come from, and just what the pandemic has done and the lessons we've learned from it. And we've found, one would say that we're out of a pandemic, but not really. We have the aftermath that we're going through right now. And as you were talking about, the aftermath of the market and what it is now. And we just push through and keep going.
It's going to take time. I mean, I don't think we're even halfway emerging psychologically from the damage that isolation did to all of us and our children. There's a lot of damage that needs to get worked through, a lot of habits that were formed that need to be resolved and recovered from. I mean, I was just talking to my wife the other day, and we were laughing how COVID has sort of changed the way we operate. We're trying to get back to meals at the dinner table as a family every night, doing the things that we were doing prior to COVID.
Right.
Again, because it kind of came off the rails for a while, right? I mean, things were a little weird. But, I think for the youth, I think that isolation was damaging. Not being able to go to school and develop that social skill, that's going to take some time to work through the system. It's going to be 4 or 5 years, I would think. But I'm grateful to be healthy. I got COVID in July. I've had all the boosters. I mean, it's no fun, but at least I'm not on a respirator.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So if you are watching, you might see that Chris is in what doesn't look like an office, but is kind of his office in a way. He's currently sitting in his second baby, which is his boba shop. He owns a boba shop.
I do. And for those of you internationally, what is boba?
Oh,
what is it?
Boba is massive. Boba is a massive universal. We all love boba, and those people that don't love boba, they know about it.
Yeah.
Very popular. So
why? So you want to know a little why did in 2017 or 2018, a good friend of mine who's been in the same industry as long as I have, and been a peer of mine in every bank that I've worked at.
Right.
A gentleman named Peter, who lives in the South Bay in San Jose, in the heart of Silicon Valley, about an hour and a half from me. We went to interview with the bank together, and afterwards he said, "Hey, Chris, I want to show you something. Have you ever heard of boba?" And I had not heard of it before. So we went to a little shop together, and he told me what to get. And I had it for the first time, and I liked it. I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was refreshing. I noticed that the place was mobbed with teenagers. And he goes, "Well, hey, I'm opening one of these franchises down here. What do you think?" And I said, "Hey, that's great. That sounds like fun. It's cool. Good idea."
Right.
And I didn't think of it again, except for when I started going to another franchise during COVID. My daughters got the app on the phone, and every week, like, "Dad, let's go get some books." And every time we went to this little shop, there was a line 5 people deep.
Right.
And during COVID, they wouldn't let you into the store. You would order on the app, and then they would put it on a little table out in front of the store. And this location had the worst parking. It was just not a great location. It's still there, but it inspired me and made me realize, man, if I put a nice brand in a nice location, I bet it would be really popular.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up opening the last weekend of August. It's been 3 months, and there are days where there's a line out the door of this place, which I can't believe.
Wow.
It's been a lot of stress and work, but it's been really exciting. And my daughters work for me, which is really cute.
That is so cool. Right.
Yeah. And I was going to be in my office for this meeting today. And it turned out I had to come in. So you get to see it firsthand.
Exactly. That's lovely.
Yeah.
And it's also great because I wanted the listeners to hear that you've got many trades that you do, and you are a business owner as well as a mortgage lender. So you really do have an interesting life, and that's why I was so happy and excited to have you as a co-host on the show today. So I do have a second person that I'd like to invite into the room. She is my non-profit. So Mary, let's admit her into the room before we continue. And for the listeners, if you are watching on YouTube, you might notice that I have some jingling and some flashing lights. This is the Christmas episode. Wow, look at Mary. Mary's just entered the room and she's got her Christmas hat on. So, you've got a Christmas tree in the back there as well.
I've got some. My little pole here has the garnish. The whole store is pretty decorated. Actually, I'll show you.
I love it. I love the fact that we're about to get a nice.
See that?
Nice.
Yeah. A little Christmas.
And
then up on the shelves, there's a little Santa and stuff. We got a little Santa going on here.
Love it.
Pretty cute. And of course the big. There's the wreath.
Love it.
Gotta have a wreath.
Gotta have a wreath, right? Wow. Thank you for the tour of your boba shop, Chris.
Yeah.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
For the listeners, if you want to go and see, you can go check it out on the YouTube version of Friends from Wild Places, so you can have a look at Chris's boba shop. But yes, so excited to have you on the show. This is Mary Jenkins, and she is CEO of Cancer Option Collaborative in Ohio, United States. So very warm welcome to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's awesome. So Chris was busy telling us about his boba shop and why he went into becoming a boba shop owner. And so I started off this podcast with a quote, Mary, and the quote is, "Strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value." So this is by Albert Einstein. And so I wanted to ask you, what value do you bring, Mary, to your surroundings?
Wow, I've never been asked that question before.
Pretty deep question, yeah.
It is. Well, I guess I bring hope.
Yes.
I mean, that is something that I am very, very passionate about. I work in the cancer space, usually objective is to bring hope to them, to help them to understand they're not alone, that somebody is really in their corner and that they can make it.
No, thank you for sharing.
It's refreshing.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Mary, do you have a podcast? I can't remember if you told me you had a podcast.
I have a podcast. It's going to be a new podcast. Wasn't intending to be a podcast, but it's called Let's Talk Cancer, because people are battling cancer. What about the struggles that they face? So let's talk about it. Let's have real conversations about the struggles that people that are in active treatment have. And I said, I'll just do it as a once a week, put a post up on social media. And people were like, when is the podcast? When are you going to have the podcast? And so I said, okay, so January is my anticipated launch date for my podcast.
Well, Mary, I'm ready.
For you, starting off the year large.
Yes. I'm excited. Thank you, Mary. And talking about podcasts, I started this podcast to share stories from other business owners and to bring support for young entrepreneurs all over the world. When business owners start out, we have such fire in our hearts and excitement to start our own businesses. But when things get tough, I want us to know that we're not alone. I feature nonprofits every month to try and make a difference or give a helpline to someone in need. Are you looking for a new marketing channel, or do you have a message you want to share with the world? Or maybe you just think it'll be fun to have your own talk show. Podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online. To start your own podcast and get a $20 Amazon gift card, follow the link in the show notes. This lets Buzzsprout know we sent you and help support our show. Buzzsprout, let's create something great together. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, Mary, is tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
Okay, well, I am a 2-time cancer survivor, which that's part of what started my whole life journey. Prior to that, I'm a mother. I have 3 sons, Edwin, Joseph, and Jerry. And my son, Edwin, and his wife, Candace, have my grandson, who is named Jude. And there's one on the way, so I'm excited about that. I'm also a veteran. I was in the U.S. Army, and I was married. My husband was in the Army as well. And he unfortunately passed away on active duty. And so I'm a surviving spouse of a military person. I am a notary and I'm an author, but I find most passion is that I am also a preacher, and I've been in ministry for about 30 years.
Wow, that's amazing. So tell me, what happened for you to open your nonprofit?
What happened for me was I was going through active treatment. So I was diagnosed with stage 3, almost stage 4 invasive ductal carcinoma. So that's breast cancer, triple negative. So that's the most aggressive kind. Sure. And I had started doing aggressive chemotherapy while trying to go to work. And it was making me sick. And I was getting sick at work. And my employer found me in the bathroom on the floor a couple times. And so they made a decision that I needed to not work there anymore. So that I could focus on recovering. Okay. I thought that was going to be a great thing. Said, now I don't have to get up and go to work. But what I didn't realize was I was not going to work, and then I didn't get a paycheck. And when I didn't get a paycheck, that meant I had bills that needed to be paid. And I reached out to the Susan G. Komen Foundation to get help. And is their breast cancer. So I figured that's who you call. And at the time, they didn't offer financial assistance to people that were in treatment. And so I couldn't understand how they were raising millions of dollars, but none of it was going to actually help the people that had cancer. And so they referred me to the American Cancer Society and to the Live Strong Foundation just to try to get help. And I found out that none of them offered financial assistance. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. There's millions of dollars that's raised, and it's not going to help the people actually battling the disease. Right. I did find a couple places that offered financial assistance, but it was like $500 once in your life. And you had to live in this city, be this type of income. And there were so many different eligibility requirements, and I wasn't meeting them. And so I didn't have help. And I ended up turning to my church and was like, I don't understand this. This doesn't make sense. I'm about to lose everything. My church offered to help me, which was a blessing for me. But in that moment, I thought, it's like, what about all the other people that are battling breast cancer that need help? I'm not the only one, because if I'm not going to work, chances are they're not going to work. And if I'm not finding help, they probably not finding it. Somebody needs to do something. And so I told my pastor, somebody needed to do something to help make people aware of where money does and doesn't go in the world of cancer. And he agreed. And I said, we've got to find someone. And he said, right, Mary. And I said, no. And he said, yes. And I was like, I can't do that. I'm shy. I don't like to talk to people. And he said, really, Mary? No, that is not you. And so I began a journey of telling people where money did and didn't go in the world of cancer. And they just started saying, well, I don't want to give to those groups. Can I give it to you to make sure it gets to somebody? I was like, sure. My church is paying my bills, and so I'll find somebody else to give the money to. And that was 17 years ago. So for the last 17 years, I have been raising money to help people that are battling cancer so that they don't get evicted from their homes, or their utilities get turned off, the car get repossessed, or just whatever they come up with. I've been raising money to help people for 17 years now.
Wow. And
you're an inspiration. Goodness.
Isn't she? She's amazing, Chris. Listen, Mary, I don't think I've heard of another nonprofit that does that. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for your service that you did for your country. That's appreciated as well.
Thank you. Thank you. When we applied to become a nonprofit, so like when you're a nonprofit, you can get larger dollars from donors. Even the IRS said, we've never heard of an organization that wanted to help people battling cancer. And I was like, I know. That's why I want to do it.
It seems kind of absurd. So is all the money being raised, is that going to research?
Cancer research, awareness. So like when they have all the little pamphlets and things of giving people information, they do that. And then they'll pay people to host support groups for people battling cancer. But the people battling cancer are there because they're stressed out because they haven't been able to pay their bills. Wow. And it's like, no one had thought about this. And what made it so bad, and I say bad, but it really was a blessing.
Right.
When I started the organization, we were focused on breast cancer because I had breast cancer and that's what I knew. Mm-hmm. And when we were 4 months old, we got a referral of a woman that had cervical cancer. And I told her we couldn't help her because she had the wrong type of cancer, which was crazy. Right. But I was like, did I just say that? And she said it was okay. And I was like, no, it's not. Oh my God. I did not even realize it. Right. And so I made some phone calls, had a conversation with my board members, and said, I never want to tell someone they had the wrong type of cancer ever again. Excellent. And they said, Mary, are you sure? And I said, yes. And so we changed our mission to include all cancers. Next thing you know, the American Cancer Society found out about us, and we started getting referrals from all over the country. And then we got referrals from Canada and Mexico, and it just spread. And so we've gotten referrals from all over the world. And we're like, how did this happen? It was not what I planned for. But the thing is that the well-known cancer organizations, and I say quotation marks, they still don't provide financial assistance. They don't. They just don't. And so we get everybody, and we're like, whew, we fundraise all the time.
Well, that's my next question is, what can we do for you? How can we help you?
I have 2 projects too. Okay. One, I didn't even realize I was going to have until like 2 weeks ago. A company found us and said, we want to donate $5,000 to you. And I was like, oh my God, that's so fantastic. They said, but we're going to do it as matching dollars to encourage your donors to give also. And so we're like, okay, well, we'll put the word out there and we will do it. So we have been fundraising to get to the 5,000. But then I also have a challenge that I've been working on. And call me crazy, or I think outside the box. I want to find 10,000 people that will agree to donate $5 a month for a year. And when you think about that, that's not a lot. $5 is not a lot. But when you have 10,000 people donating $5, that's $50,000. And if that happens every single month, how many people can we really help? And so I'm like, I'm on a mission. So I talk about it all the time. I'm like, $5, $5, $5.
I'll add myself to that list, Mary. Can I add myself to that list? I'll be that person. Yeah. We'll speak about it afterwards, and I'll get the details of how I can link my bank account up or however I need to pay.
Awesome.
But yes, I'll do that.
Thank you. And that's the thing that we like people are like, well, we want to donate clothes. We appreciate the clothes and those are great.
Right.
But if a person doesn't have a home or their lights aren't on, that those are the things that we really, really focus on. Or if they don't have a car to get back and forth to treatment. We had a family, they were on their way to treatment and the car broke down and they made it to the hospital. The little girl was in treatment and the hospital called us and we're like, okay, we'll make some phone calls and find someone to pick the car up and repair the car and we'll pay for it and get the car back to the family. Nobody else does stuff like that because that's just not their thing.
Right. That's amazing. And for the listeners, if you're listening right now and, Mary's story touched your heart, well, you feel moved that that's you. You'd like to be that person that donates $5 a month for just a year. A year out of your entire life is nothing, guys. So if I can encourage you, if you can, please go ahead. All Mary's contact details are going to be in the show notes. So you have no excuse. But Chris, go ahead.
I was going to say, Mary, I'm going to introduce you to my company, which is pretty philanthropic. And I wonder if some connections there, I bet I could touch many, many contributors. So we'll talk offline one day and I'll line that up.
I love that. Right.
This is the best time of the year.
I know. I will link you and Chris up. So don't worry, I've got details and I will link you guys up ASAP. So there's networking right there for you. It's amazing. So the next question I want to ask you guys is, being business owners, Chris, you're a mortgage lender. You're also a owner of a boba shop. Mary, you own your own nonprofit doing amazing things for people that are suffering with cancer and having to live a lifestyle outside of that. Did that, being a business owner, did that come naturally or did you have to nurture that side of yourself? Mary, you go ahead.
It did not come naturally. Not in this direction. I've always wanted to try to be a business owner and I always, put my little hands in doing different things. But when it came down to realizing something that was so huge, that there was such a big need, I had no idea what I was doing. I prayed a whole lot. It was like, I don't know who I'm supposed to talk to, or anything. And so what sustained me is I made a confession. So I have a confession that I say every day. And that is that God has great people that are ready to help me in the right way and at the right time. People I don't even know it yet. So I won't give up when it looks like I don't have the help that I need. And that became my everyday thing. So whenever I needed something, I was like, I don't know who I'm going to meet, but it's going to be somebody that's going to be able to help me.
Absolutely.
So I grew into it.
I agree. And may I just say, I also never, if you told me 10 years ago that I was going to be a business owner, I would have said you're smoking socks. There's no ways. It's just, I'm not even interested in something like that. But now going along and being a business owner, you can only have so much knowledge. The rest has to actually be experience and as you go along in life. So in the beginning, it feels like you're faking it until you're making it kind of thing. But as the longer you're in, the more experiences you build, the more experienced you are as a business owner and the more you grow in your knowledge and power of being a business owner. So that's definitely true for me because the right people at the right time have just come into my life and have guided me in the right direction as a business owner. So I'm very grateful for that. Very grateful. What about yourself, Chris?
Well, I would just add that every exciting, meaningful thing that I've done in my life was stepping out of my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And, I think I heard a quote, or I learned something once that said, life begins outside of your comfort zone. Right. So I think for people that are self-employed or endeavoring to do something meaningful, you don't have to be an expert out the gate. Just don't make the same mistake twice. Get out there and do things, build on that. And over time, you're the expert. When I first got into mortgage, I didn't really know that much about it. Right. And the person that I am today, from 22 years of being an originator, like I mentioned to you earlier in the podcast, when it comes out of my pores when I sweat, like I mentioned, yes. Right? And I think Mary's contribution to the universe, you think about where she started and what she knows now, the connection she has now. She's an expert in what she's doing. And you just need to go out there and reach for it and get up every day, take a deep breath, to make your best effort, and you become the expert, right? So I didn't expect to be a boba shop, but we'll talk about that some other time. It's my teenagers driving that one, but I think it's exciting, right? Why do things that are not as meaningful or impactful? Do them for someone else. Why not do it for yourself and drive that bus the direction you want to be? Want to be going. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely love that, Chris. So thank you very much. Being business owners as well, I get it. You get busy. I get it. Emails start building up to the point that they get lost. Time just flies by and you wonder, there's not enough hours in the day to get everything done. I get it. So it also tires one out. You get burnt out very quickly. And I know and it's very hard because at times you have to turn to your clients and go, all right, I've got everything, under wraps. I've got everything sorted out for you, but I'm going to be away for these few days and you won't be able to reach me. And during that time, you recoup, you do whatever you love, you do whatever that is that makes you alive from the inside out, and you do that. So what is that thing that you do that refills your tank? So Chris, you go this time. What is that one thing or two things?
Well, what refills my tank? I struggle as a 50-something to not get overwhelmed with the communication vehicles all around us now. The websites, text, phone calls, emails. It's a little exhausting.
Yes.
And it doesn't let your brain turn off if you're not careful. My teenagers are looking at their phones all the time. It drives me crazy. It's like, can't you just be in the present without all that peripheral stuff influencing decisions you're making and, consuming all of your time? And the way that I get away from it is I hop on my mountain bike, get out into the mountains. People can't reach me. It really refreshes. I think physical activity is really important for your mental cleansing, if you will. It really helps me, and I fight it, but it's not easy. But you have to make an effort to put this little guy down sometimes.
That's true.
Right. Otherwise, you just aren't not present. You're not. Yes. And that it saddens me a little bit because I think COVID had an impact on the generation just behind us, and their ability to be present, not engulfed in it.
You've muted yourself by accident, Chris. Sorry.
Sorry. So and here I am tapping on the computer, and I whacked the mute button. But I make a conscious effort of fighting that.
Right.
Because if I don't do that, then I get wound up. I don't sleep. I grind my teeth. I can't stop. I can't turn off my brain.
Right.
So you really have to make an effort to take care of yourself, exercising and turning off the connectivity.
That's so
because
true.
if you're not careful, you're sucked into that vortex every minute, and it's not healthy.
Right.
It's not healthy,
And I said, take a few days. It doesn't have to be days. It can be a few hours. Go stop, lower the laptop screen down, put the phone away, go jump onto your mountain bike, go for an hour or two. I mean, I've just come back from California, and I've got to be honest, there's so many amazing places just down the road that is beautiful in nature and stunning. And I'm sure in Ohio is the same thing, Mary. I haven't been to Ohio, so I'm sure there is beautiful nature spots there as well. So take a few hours. What about yourself, Mary?
Ooh-wee. I'm gonna tell on myself. So I'm down from having 6 cell phones down to 3.
6.
Right. I am down. I travel. Oh gosh, I travel 2 to 3 weekends every month, starting in January. From January to November, I am gone. And I go on the weekend, so I'm gone Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, sometimes Tuesday, and then I'm home Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. But I'm working during that time, and so for the first year, I was like, I'm not doing anything in December. I'm not leaving the city. I'm going to be home. I'm going to be present. I'm going to enjoy my time because there's so much that happens that I miss.
Right.
And I was like, oh. So I started doing that. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to turn my phones off. And it got to the point where I forgot to turn them back on. And I'm just like, I haven't gotten any phone calls today. I wonder why. And then I'm like, looking, my phones are off. And I'm like, oh my God, what in the world has happened? And so it's like, I now really, really appreciate the silent time. I do like to ride in my car and just ride with no sound, just nothing, just silence.
Right.
And it's crazy.
I do that too.
I have a mountain bike. I have a mountain bike. It's going to sound horrible. I've got to find somebody to come and put air in the tires because I don't know how. And once I do, I want to go riding. I want to have the time away because the fact that I deal with cancer patients every single day.
Right.
People get diagnosed with cancer and they die. People that I have had conversations with and they die. And knowing that I'm a 2-time cancer survivor myself, I've had, the most aggressive chemos that you can have. So if cancer decides to come my way again, there's no treatment options for me. And so it's important that I have the family time, the self time, the time away from it, just so that I don't lose myself in the midst of it all, because you really can. And when you said, Chris, you don't sleep and then you grind your teeth, I was like, oh my God, he has talked to my dentist. Because I recently went to the dentist and he was like, you're grinding your teeth, aren't you, Mary? And I was like, So when I get frustrated about stuff that happens in the world of cancer, I tend to grind my teeth. And he was like, yeah, we got to work on that. So
yeah, I think that is a residual of this hyper focused connectivity world that we live in. We don't get to turn off.
Right.
And it's not good for us.
Right.
I mean, here it creeps into your bed at night. You're laying there thinking about stuff, grinding your teeth with tension. It's not good.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. So we got to work on that as a community. And, the world needs to take a break once in a while.
Yeah. When my family and I have dinner, all cell phones are off. They're on vibrate, but they're somewhere away. We do not, during the time when we're having family dinner, we do not get on our phones at all. No. It's totally family time.
And we're more productive when we're rested and refreshed. If you work, if I find the last hour or so of a workday, I'm kind of losing steam.
Right.
I'm not that productive. That's time for me to go home and relax, right? And be refreshed and be strong the next day.
100%. I'm the same way, especially I'm most productive in the morning. But the problem is, with my business, I work on the Pacific Standard Time. So a lot of my work is done from about 4 p.m. to about 10 p.m. It's now 9:45 at night on a Friday. And so I've really had to get used to that part. But any of the strenuous, not working with numbers, my spreadsheets and stuff, if I know I need to get that done, I do it in the morning. I do it in the morning because I know I'm fresh. And I leave my meetings and everything in the evenings. But, what I wanted to say is stress comes out in so many different shapes and forms, and it can be misdiagnosed very easily. And we need to watch that, because if you start having these physical symptoms, whether it be grinding your teeth or insomnia or whatever the case may be, some people pick at their skin, some people pull their hair out, whatever it can be. There's millions of different symptoms that your body can start doing to say, hey, you're stressed. You need a timeout. So what I want you to know is always listen to your body. Your body tells you when you need to have that time out. So thank you for sharing that with me, guys. I really appreciate it. We have come to the part of the podcast where we play a little bit of a game and get a little bit lighthearted. So we're going to play agree or disagree. So I'm going to say a statement, and then we can raise our hands if we agree and not raise our hands if we disagree. And we can agree to disagree. We are all friends here. It's a very safe space. And for the listeners, don't worry, I will let you know who has put up their hands and who hasn't. And then we can chat about why we agree or why we disagree. So the first statement is, being a short person is better than being a tall person. Okay. All right. So for the listeners, no one put their hands up. So clearly there's only tall people in the room here. Because
I love tall people and short people.
Just grab a glass from the cabinet. That's just a little easier, That's all.
Right. And when you're in like a massive crowd of people, whether you're at a concert or you're at Harry Potter World and you're watching, the light show at Hogwarts, then you're tall. You can see over everyone. It's lovely.
But a short person has a lot more comfort on an airplane, in a car. So, we have to represent everybody here.
Right.
I agree.
Okay, well, I'm representing the tall people because, I'm
only 5'5", so I'm not really considered a tall person.
Okay, I see where you're at, Mary. I like it. We should be more inclusive. You're right. Okay, so the next statement is, money does equal happiness. Okay. I think I'm with my crowd of people here, because for the listeners, no one put up their hands, because we do not believe that money equals happiness. I will let Chris tell me why you disagree with that statement.
Well, from a personal perspective,
yes.
There was a time in my young life when I was in college and I had, $40 or $50 to get me through the week, and I had to eat a lot of spaghetti. But I was still having the time of my life, having a great time, playing beach volleyball and, using the change in the ashtray for gas. And that was a fun time in my young life. And counter to that, in my industry, I see people, especially where I live, there's a lot of wealth here, and I see a lot of miserable wealthy people that are consumed with the wealth and consuming, but really are not happy. at all.
Right.
And I think that is, I think wealth creates some stability, but is not a formula for happiness.
I love that. Yeah, no, I agree with you. You took the words right out of my mouth. Mary, do you disagree with this statement? Do you have anything to
Correct.
add?
It does not equal happiness, but money does give you the medium to make possible activities to make you happy. And so it's just understanding it, because even, the scripture said, they say money is the root of all evil. And it's not that it's money. It's not the money. It's the heart that's attached to it.
Right.
And so money doesn't make you happy at all. It just gives you the ability to be able to fly to Disney, or to be able to donate, or to be able to do different things. And it's those things that really bring us happiness and can make us fulfilled.
Yes, I agree with you. I find that my happiness, and this obviously comes from experience as well. I mean, I fought for the money. I worked myself to the bone to get more hours, to get paid more. And I was never happy. And I actually was quite depressed, actually. What I did find, and thanks to the pandemic for this, I would never have been able to stop and actually figure this out. But because we all had to stop and stay indoors, I got a chance to really figure out that my happiness came from actually helping others. So I think it was like, I did a fundraiser one time, and I loved how just helping others, made me feel. And it might be true for me. I don't know if it's true for everyone, but I feel like I'm on this earth to help others, whether that be to fundraise, whether that be to lend a helping hand when someone asks, or offer it when there's a need, whatever that might be. That's where I find my happiness. So yeah, I really appreciate that, guys. I think we have time for one more comment, or should I say statement. It goes like this: showing up late is disrespectful. Wait, if you agree, then you need to put up your hands.
Oh.
Okay, for the listeners, Chris and Mary. Go ahead.
I think if somebody has a traffic issue or a transportation issue, it's excusable. But if it's a consistent pattern of behavior for somebody, I don't think that's respectful. And I'll speak to this just for a moment. I think that one of my massive peeves in the universe is going to see healthcare professionals. When I go see my physician and they make me wait in the lobby for an hour and then a half an hour in the waiting room, I think that's massively disrespectful to me, because my time is also valuable. And I have to really, have some introspection there and say, okay, well, they're busy. Somebody showed up really ill today. But those kinds of things you really have to manage through. But if it's a pattern of behavior, I actually fired a physician once because I got sick of waiting in their lobby for an hour. It's like, okay, well, schedule me an hour later next time.
Right.
So I stopped seeing that physician because I just, speaking to your question, it's not respectful of the other person's time that you're meeting with, or the appointment that you're making with someone. That's what I think.
Right.
I'm going to mute myself now.
I'm in agreement with Chris. I am fully in agreement. Fortunately, all my doctors have become my friends, because they've been the same ones on my whole journey. And so I have their cell phone numbers. So if something's going on, I can send them a text message. And, so I developed that because of what I do. My time it's so valuable. I can't sit for an hour waiting to go in another room to sit for 20 minutes. And then you come in and you're there 5 minutes, then we're done. And you're going to charge me a crazy amount of money. We're not doing that. So there's that. Now I will say that it definitely is disrespectful. So if I'm driving to a meeting and traffic is heavy, I can tell I'm going to be late. And so if I don't call that person or text that person something to say, hey, I'm running late, that's disrespectful.
Right.
I have a problem with that. People that show up, oh my God, we're going to do something right at, it starts at 2 and they show up right at 2. No, because you have to get ready and prepare. And so my thing, and I taught this to my kids as well, 10 to 15 minutes in advance. And then that way we can start right on time. You're in the moment, and then we can do what we have to do.
I get it. Yeah, I'm totally down with that. I mean, the only reason why I disagree with it is because I am sometimes very guilty of pitching up late. And it's not a habitual thing per se, but I know I've done it. And I've always phoned the person to say that I'm running late. So to your point, Mary, and I'm always apologetic when I get there, but I know it's out of no disrespect. So
it's not intentional. It's not like you.
Not at all.
No, but I think
that's different.
I think it's disrespectful if it's a pattern of behavior. I think occasionally, because of circumstances, and if you're communicating, it's acceptable. If you're not communicating and it's a pattern of behavior, then that's not respect.
Yes.
I will tell you, I learned this. I had to fly to Vegas, and they usually say at the airport, arrive 2 hours in advance. I got caught in traffic and had to go all the way around. So I arrived less than an hour before my flight, and they almost would not take my luggage. And I was like, I thought you had to have your luggage here, 30 minutes. They said, no, you have to have your luggage checked in an hour before your flight. And so I was like, you don't understand. This is why I'm traveling. I'm going to raise money for people battling cancer. And it just so happened that the person that I was talking to had a family member that had battled cancer. And she was like, I'm going to get it on the plane for you. And I was like, thank you so much.
Oh, that was nice.
I mean, there are boundaries that are put specifically to make certain that the operation of business can still happen. And so to show up late, you might get your feelings hurt.
Right. I'm with you. Thanks, guys. That was fun. I appreciate you taking part with me. We have come to the end of the podcast, but I'd like to just take some time to thank both you, Chris, and Mary, for just taking the time out of your busy days and just being on Friends from Wild Places. I'd like to finish off by, Chris, if you won't mind, just sharing some social media places or anywhere where people can reach out to you.
Well, being in sales and in the mortgage business, I am so easy to find. My name is so easy to remember. If you Google my name, mortgage, San Anselmo, or guaranteed rate, I'm all over the place. I often tell customers that I'm easy to find, and I do that on purpose. So just Google my name and mortgage. There I am.
No, I like that. That's Chris Davis, guys. For those that are listening, Chris Davis. So go and look him up. You'll find him. What about yourself, Mary? I mean, specifically, I'm asking because I know if there are listeners that have made a connection with just listening to you speak and want to know more about your journey or want some advice and they have a question, this is why I ask you guys just to share where they can reach you. So, Mary, what about you?
I can be reached on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, you name it. Mary Jenkins. I'm really me. I look like me. I don't come up with all the creative names and stuff like that. Like it's enough. And so if you do a Google search and do Mary Jenkins cancer, you'll get out. But I did recently. I found out that there's somebody else named Mary Jenkins. Now I'm like, we have to separate. So some app put all of our podcasts together, and I'm like, no, we are two separate people, and we, got to figure that out. So,
oh my goodness,
that's one of my things. I'm going to do.
Maybe you should have a podcast with Mary Jenkins. Now that would be interesting.
That's a plan.
I'm Mary Jenkins, and I'm Mary Jenkins.
I love that. Thank you, Mary. And again, I'm going to put the link down below as well for those people that want to donate and be one of those people that give $5 for a year. That'll definitely be a link in the show notes as well. So for those people that want to get hold of me, I'm not sure why you would want to, but you can find me on YouTube, as you know, Friends from Wild Places. You can go watch the video version. Please comment and subscribe. Tell me what you feel. Tell me if you like it, don't like it, what I can improve on. Everything is welcome. So let me know. You can also find me on LinkedIn. That's my business, Shireen Buerta. Twitter as well for Friends from Wild Places. But please do your thing. Share the podcast wherever needed. Your support is so appreciated. The website is friendsfromwildplaces.buzzsprout.com. That's friendsfromwildplaces.buzzsprout.com. And the last favor, if I can ask you guys, Mary, Chris, when you get a chance, you can find Friends from Wild Places' podcast on iTunes. Please go leave a review, even if it's not a nice one or it's a nice one or whatever. At least it's something so that I can get some feedback. But other than that, guys, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mary. And thanks for listening. So see you next time, guys. And remember, you got this and stay wild. Bye.
Thank you. You as well. Christmas is my birthday.
No, how cute. Happy holidays.
You've been listening to Friends from Wild Places with Shireen Buerta. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast from the links to catch every episode and unleash your passion.